Thank you, Holly, for a beautiful introduction. Good morning, friends. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for having me here, and Ms. Kimberly for giving me an opportunity to share some of the salient features of Hindu philosophy. I want to extend my special thanks to author and poet Holly Kinnear for inviting me over here. I was a bit hesitant initially when she asked me if I could speak about Hinduism in front of all of you, because one, I wouldn't think of myself an authority to speak about this great religion, and two, I don't consider myself a natural speaker, even though I'm an educator and my job is to talk to children all day. Well, if words come exclusively from math vocabulary, then you can say I'm a good speaker. Once I agreed to Holly that I would do it, I've been constantly reminding myself not to offend anybody by my careless remarks. I request all of you to kindly bear with me if any of my comments or remarks in my talk make no sense or are simply nonsense. I'm sure you won't mind that. You all are very kind and intelligent people. All right. The topic of my today's talk is Hinduism, a path to self realization. I'd like to dwell more on the spiritual and philosophical aspects of Hinduism rather than its religious aspects. Before going into a detailed exploration of the path to self realization, let me try to give you an outline of what Hinduism is and what its principles are. Kindly bear with me for using words from Sanskrit language, for Vedanta philosophy has a set of vocabulary when given in its original Sanskrit language. The concepts of Hindu philosophy can be clearly understood. I'll make sure to translate those words as and when they arise. What is Hinduism? The first thing to understand is that Hinduism is not a religion. Hinduism is considered a way of life. The word dharma in Sanskrit language means the righteous way of life. Hinduism is best known among its followers the Sanatana Dharma, meaning the eternal way of life. According to Wikipedia, the term Hindu implies a geographic, ethnic, or cultural identifier for people living in the Indian subcontinent around or beyond the Sindhu River or the Indus River. Hinduism is also an umbrella term referring to a broad range of sometimes opposite and often competitive traditions. Although people in India have been practicing this eternal way of life for several thousand years, the term Hinduism was coined only in the 18th century in Western ethnography. In simple terms, we can understand that Hinduism is a conglomeration of different practices, traditions, and cultures. What are the concepts of Hinduism as a religion? Like any other religion, Hinduism has the concepts of God, heaven and hell, punyam, the good deeds that take you to heaven, and papam, the bad deeds that take you to hell. In addition to these concepts, Hinduism has the concepts of multiple gods, karma theory, and a belief in rebirth. I will talk about them in detail a little later. What are the holy scriptures of Hindu religion? Contrary to the popular notion that a religion must have its holy scripture, Hinduism does not have a specific scripture. However, there are several spiritual, philosophical, and religious texts that are considered holy scriptures for Hinduism. There are the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharvana. The Vedas are the oldest texts of Hinduism, originating in ancient India at least 5,000 years ago. The Vedas are considered apaurushaya, meaning not made of man, and are called Shrutis, meaning they're not written down but heard by the rishis, the ancient Indian sages. The Vedas have been orally transmitted and preserved with the help of elaborate mnemonic devices. And then there is the Bhagavad Gita and the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata and thousands of other texts. Vedas are divided into two portions, khandas, the Karma Kanda, karma meaning action, which makes up the bulk of the Vedas, and deals with yajnas and upasanas. Yajna means religious rites and rituals, and upasana means meditation techniques. The second part is called the Jnana Kanda, the knowledge portion. I'd like to dwell more on this portion once I'm done with my introduction part. Since this portion appears at the end of each Veda, this part is also called Vedanta. Anta means the end. Vedanta means the final portion of the Vedas. The final portion of the Vedas contain Upanishads, the philosophical texts that deal with the nature of reality. There are hundreds of Upanishads, all of which deal with the same thing, the ultimate reality. Generally, there are 10 principal Upanishads studied by the Vedantic students, for which Advaita philosophers like Shankara have written elaborate commentaries. Isha Kena Kata Prasna Munda Mandukya Taitiri Aitareyam Cha Chandogyam Brihadaranyakam Tata. This sloka, this verse, lists out all the principal Upanishads: Ishavasya Upanishad, Kenopanishad, Katha Upanishad, Prasna Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The text Bhagavad Gita also deals with the ultimate reality and is considered the essence of all Upanishads. This Vedanta portion deals with the ultimate reality. In order to understand what it talks about, how it is relevant to us as spiritual seekers, let us explore a few important things about this human life. For the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to refer to human beings as man. So, ladies, please pardon me for using this term. This is in no way an effort to put man on a higher pedestal. There are four main goals in human life. They are called purusharthas, the goals of human life. I will first say them in Sanskrit and I'll elaborate each one individually. The four purusharthas are dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Man's life is controlled mainly by two things: fears and desires. To alleviate fear, he seeks things that give him security, and to quench his desires, he seeks things that give him pleasures. The pursuit of safety and security to alleviate fears is called artha, and the pursuit of pleasures is called kama. There is this third pursuit by human beings, which is called dharma. The word dharma has multiple meanings. Dharma means truth, the righteous way of living, and the ethical basis on which one lives one's life. Man seeks security and pleasure, but the manner in which he attains those things also gains importance. If he gains them by unlawful means, his conscience will never allow him to be peaceful or enjoy the pleasures he has acquired. He must follow the rightful, lawful means to attain things of this world. And for this, he pursues dharma, the righteous way of life. So, for the majority of the human beings, just these three purusharthas, the human goals, namely dharma, artha, and kama, are enough to lead a peaceful and happy life. They will lead a simple life, suffer their sufferings, enjoy their pleasures, and leave their bodies when the time comes. Also, for them, if they're religious, the promise of a beautiful heaven for a life lived righteously is a good enough goal, and they leave this world in the hope of reaching that place of everlasting happiness. However, there's this little minority for whom even attaining the things that'll give them security and pleasure won't, won't give them satisfaction. They want complete freedom. They cannot simply bank on the promise of heaven, which they are not sure even if it really exists. What they really want is the ultimate freedom from the hose of wants and desires. They don't ever want to be bound by their desires and wants and wonder if there is a way out. Let us explore further along these lines. Let's take a simple desire like wanting to eat ice cream. Let's say we have a desire to eat ice cream right now because we believe that eating ice cream will give us some pleasure. Now we got the ice cream. At the point of holding the ice cream, we are happy that we got it in our hands. And as we are consuming it, we are happy and content that while in the process of eating the ice cream, we do not seem to want another ice cream or any other thing for that matter. The situation may change once we are done eating. We might desire several other things after eating, but while eating, we are content. We are pleased. This is true of any of our materialistic possessions. This is true even of our relationships with people. While we are on good terms with our loved ones, we are happy and content. The moment the happy situation is broken for any reason, we are no longer happy and look for ways to satisfy ourselves, either by materialistic things or relationships with people. So, what we really want is not the things of this world, not the people of this world, but a pleased self, a state of utter contentment, a state of utter desirelessness. This state of contentment, desirelessness, the state of being pleased with oneself all the time is called moksham, the ultimate freedom. And this is the fourth purushartha and it is considered the parama purushartha, the supreme goal that any human being can aim for. The people who have concluded that neither the things of this world nor its people will give them the ultimate freedom will choose moksham as their only goal, and they want in their life nothing short of this parama purushartha, the supreme goal. Not after they leave their bodies, but now and here, while they live in this world. They have set aside their materialistic wants and desires, and they want only one thing in life: moksham, the ultimate freedom. And people who are desirous of this supreme goal, moksham, are called mumukshus, the aspirants, the aspirants of ultimate freedom. How do you attain this ultimate freedom? Vedanta philosophy says in order to attain the ultimate freedom, one needs to know the nature of one's self, this self called I. Knowing oneself, one attains moksha. This process of knowing oneself is called self realization. How does one know oneself? The path to self realization is the path of self inquiry. Am I this body? Am I this mind? or the ego, or something beyond all these? What is the nature of this world? How did this come into being? Is there a creator who made this universe? If there is one, what is his nature? These are all the questions that will be addressed by the Vedanta philosophy. And when all of one's questions are answered by way of self inquiry, he will realize his true self and attain the ultimate freedom. Why is self inquiry proposed to be the only way to attain moksha? When we acquire worldly things, at some point in time, they are bound to leave us, or the things may remain and we will have to leave them. The worldly things that we acquired are bound to leave us at some point in time, or else the things may remain and we will have to leave them. We don't want moksham to be one of those things. We want our freedom, our realization, our enlightenment to be permanent. A thing that is permanent cannot be attained through action because all things that are born out of action are bound to perish in time. What we want is the imperishable reality. If something is permanent and imperishable, there's only one way to attain it. The thing that is permanent, everlasting, eternal, should be already present within us because it is eternal. It was never created in the first place. So it has to be us. But we don't feel that way. What prevents us from owning that ultimate freedom is our ignorance about the possession of it. So, if you want to attain that imperishable reality, you just have to remove your ignorance of it. Ignorance can only be removed by knowledge, not by anything else. So, self realization is equal to self knowledge. Okay, what is the nature of this self called I? The self is called Atma in Sanskrit. So, Atma simply means I. What does this word Atma denotes? Is it the body, the mind, the ego, or the spirit that leaves the body after death? To understand the nature of the self, this I, this Atma, Vedanta applies several methodologies. I'll take up and explain one of them here. It's called Drik Drishya Viveka. Drik means the seer, the one who sees all this. Drishyam means the seen, the observed, the world, this universe. Viveka here means discrimination. In Drik Drishya Viveka, the entire creation is divided into two things, the seer and the seen. In order to understand the nature of the self, we must do this discrimination. The Drishyam, because it includes everything that is seen by me in this universe, cannot be me, the Atma. The only thing that could be me is the one that sees all these things. We don't have a problem in identifying this whole universe as not I, an Atma. But the problem begins with our nose. Most of the times, we take this body to be the Atma, the I. But this body is seen by me. Therefore, the body cannot be me. Granted, it is the tool available to me, but it is not the Atma, the I. Well, my mind is also seen by me. I can see clearly when my mind is happy, sad, or angry, and also its fluctuations. So I'm not the mind. I'm not the ego either, because my ego, which is being influenced and shaped by my experiences all the time, is seen by me as well. I'm well aware of its fluctuations. So I'm not the ego. Then who am I? What is the nature of this Atma, the self? Vedanta says Atma is the nature of Sat Chit Ananda, Satchidananda. Sat here means existence. Vedanta says you are the nature of existence. You don't need any external help to prove that you exist. The self is self evident. That's why you are Sat, the nature of existence. You are also Chit, consciousness, because you're all the time aware of your existence and the existence of this universe as well. You are aware of things you know, and you're also aware of things that you don't know. All things exist only in your awareness. Hence, your nature is one of consciousness. Oh, okay. I'm the nature of consciousness. You are the nature of consciousness. He is the nature of consciousness. There are 7 billion consciousnesses in this world then. No, there cannot be another conscious principle other than you, because if there is one, then one conscious principle becomes the object of another conscious principle. This will then lead to infinite regression. This is called anavastha dosham in Sanskrit. When something becomes the object of another, it can only be anatma, not I. There will be only one conscious principle possible, and that is you. You are also of the nature of ananda, happiness. Why so? Because since you are the nature of awareness, all things exist only in your awareness. And since there is no other conscious principles other than you are complete. You are the whole, and you are the eternal being. There's nothing to be desired because everything exists in you, the awareness. You are in a perpetual state of fulfillment, contentment. That is why your nature is one of happiness. If you know this Satchit Ananda, Satchidananda to be your true nature, then you will be forever free from the shackles of fear and desires. The one who knows himself to be the Satchit Ananda is the enlightened one. He has nothing to accomplish in this world, and his very existence, his very breathing, will bless this world. Vedanta says you are the only thing that exists. Everything also exists in you. Oh, what about God? Does he exist in me too? Let's explore the concept of God a little bit. God primarily means the creator of this universe. Now we can raise a few questions such as who is God? Where is God? How did he create this world? And so on. But all these questions are invalid. The only question to be asked here is what is God? We all agree that if there is a God, he must be omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. If God created this world, with what material did he create this world? We cannot say that he found the material elsewhere because then it will be limiting his omnipotence. We cannot say God is sitting somewhere because then it will be limiting his omnipresence. According to Vedanta philosophy, there are two causes for the creation of this universe. Nimitta karanam, the intelligent cause, and upadana karanam, the material cause. To make a pot, one requires the pot maker's intelligence and the material, the clay. There is no dispute that God is the intelligent cause of this universe. Now, Vedanta says God is also the material cause of this universe. He himself becomes the material for the universe. He himself becomes the universe. Isavashyam idam sarvam, says Upanishad. All that's here is God alone. This explains the multiplicity of gods in Hinduism because Hindus sees each and everything as God. They worship cows as God, rivers as God, and the entire universe as God. But that doesn't explain my relationship with God. Agree all that's here is God, but what about me? Every Upanishad contains something called Mahavakya, meaning the great sentence. The sentence itself is short, but the profundity of its message is what makes the great sentence. Each Mahavakya reveals the truth about the relationship between Atma, the self, and Brahman, or the Ishvara, the God, the individual, and the absolute. The entire Upanishad can be conceived of the explanation for this great sentence. The four principal Mahavakyas are Tattvamasi, you are that, Aham Brahma Asmi, I am that Brahman alone, Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahman, I am Atma Brahma, this self alone is Brahma. Here, Brahman means the God, the creator. All these Mahavakyas proclaim that there is no difference between the Atma and the Brahman. The Self and the Absolute are one and the same. How so? God is omnipresent. I'm just a 170-pound limited being. God is omnipotent, and I cannot get up from my bed without hurting myself. God is omniscient, and I don't even know what I'm thinking. But yes, you and God are one and the same, simply because you are of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda, and God is also of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda. So this non-duality is called Advaitam. There's nothing exists apart from you, not even God. To realize this profound truth and stay in this knowledge that I am existence conscious absolute, it takes a lot of spiritual practice and philosophical study. The spiritual practice is called Karma Yoga, the yoga of action. This yoga is practiced to attain a pure, focused mind ready for scriptural study. In Karma Yoga, one does one's own duties and daily chores, but with one important difference. He performs his actions without any attachment to either the actions or the results of those actions. Prolonged practice of this karma yoga gives one the purity of mind, and with prolonged practice of meditation, he attains a focused mind. If one wants to know one to be the Brahman and attain the ultimate freedom, one needs to undergo systematic study of the Vedantic scriptures. There are three stages of this study: Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, listening, contemplation, and meditation. Shravanam, listening, means you listen to the teachings of a qualified, competent teacher who had once been a student under another competent teacher. Mananam, contemplation, means you contemplate and rationalize the teachings, seeking clarity and understanding. Nididhyasanam, meditation, means through sustained meditation, you assimilate the teachings until they become an integral part of your being. What does one study to do this self inquiry? In Vedanta, students study the Prasthanatraya, the three primary texts: the Upanishads, there are 10 of them, the 10 principal Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. The subject matter of all these texts are one and the same: you, the ultimate reality. So, how does an enlightened person look like? The person who knows one to be the Brahman is an enlightened soul. He is always happy and content because he knows happiness is his true nature. He is kind, compassionate, and loving. He has transcended the sense of a separate self and sees himself in everything and sees everything in him. I pray and hope that all of us will embark on this beautiful journey of self realization and attain the ultimate freedom, moksha, and become the enlightened souls. Thank you so much for the opportunities